So under dimensions, of course, we have all different types of annotations. The important thing that we're going to look at is style. And you don't have to do it. You can watch. Up to you. I'm recording this, so style. Style is where we actually tell it, like, hey, what this thing's going to work like. All right. So if we go to style, I have some styles already set up. And I don't know how different yours looks from this, but why don't you, someone open up one on their screen. Let's see. No takers. You got yours up? Yeah, it looks exactly like 2005 to 2014. Huh? 9 years later, no change, which is good, right? That's why I told you you could have probably stopped at 2005 with the software, buying it. So what we have here is the ability to create different styles, right? Why might we create different dimension styles?
So, different, the different kind of dimension you either want like the outside, the overall dimensions, or the detailed dimensions.
So that means the drawing might change in scale, right? So when we're working in paper space, we might have a different sort of zoom on the drawing. So as we get closer to something, the dimensions would get bigger as well, right? So if we're working at 1/4 inch scale versus 1/2 inch versus 1 foot, we want to make sure that our dimensions aren't like huge text on our drawing, right? Yeah, so it's a lot to do with adjusting the scales to work with the different sort of drawings that we're producing that are scaled. So we have some here. I have some already made, but if we went to like new, we can start with one. In this case, we can start. What do you guys have? Standard? Okay, let's grab standard. Let's make new, and we can call this. So it's going to be a copy of standard. So let's call this one Arc 170. And we can start with standard and then hit continue. And then we're going to get all of a sudden our new dimension style window here. So there's some things that we have to start adjusting. So if we look at, if we start at the very beginning, lines and arrows, okay? This tells us what type of arrowhead do we want to have. So we have all different options. By default, it's closed filled. Okay. So yours guys, they did change it a little bit. What's tab number 1 for you guys? Okay, so they separated them. All right. But you guys have arrowheads? So under arrowheads, we can adjust what type of sort of end position, right? Do we want dots? This is where you get creative, right? The architectural tick is pretty standard. Oh. Yes. Yes. Does that make sense, guys? Everybody hear that? Like we set these styles up that other people use them. So you would set this up and then everybody would use it. Okay. So you see as soon as we change this to architectural tick, we get our sort of tick line. And then there's arrow size. Do you guys have that? So this is where we have to start thinking. This is going to be drawn, if we say like 3/16 of an inch, this will be drawn at 3/16 of an inch. Okay. So let's see what that means. Let's just leave it at 3/16 now. Let's see what this looks like when we try it, and then we'll update it, okay? So we might change the architectural tick. The other thing is color, line weight. Always do this by layer. Baseline spacing, we'll leave that alone for now. We'll leave all these as what they are. And we'll come back. We're going to tweak these as we start drawing. Then we'll go to text. Text style by default would be standard. We typically don't want to use standard. If we click on the little dialog box, do you guys have this little dialog box to the right? We can go ahead under fonts and find like Arial. Might not be a bad idea. And then we have the height of the font. Let's go ahead and make that 1 foot for right now. And then hit apply. And then close. So our font has changed, right? So that's fine. What's wrong with our text right now? What is it giving us? What's that? Decimal points, right? So we're going to go then to primary units. So we actually can set up different units for the dimensions. In this case, we do want to have architectural. And then we can say what our precision is. 1/16 is probably going to be more than enough. And then we can do format. Like, is it maybe non-stacked? So we get like 5 feet 7 3/4 of an inch, which is actually pretty nice. We have a scale factor. This should be 1. We found that out. You could do inches, but then you're going to be doing it as fractional. But you won't get the inch mark, I think. Unless you... unless you're doing decimal inches, which is fine. You can do that all day. But if you do it architectural, it's going to convert it into feet and inches. So if you do fractional, I don't think you'll ever be able to get the inch. But I guess you would assume it's inches. But we'll use architectural for now. I know a lot of times, right, especially if you're doing cabinets, they want inches. Like 57 or whatever. In this case, because of the scale. Okay. So what do we see? What do we see already by changing this? What's something that's obvious? The ticks are tiny, right? So we can go back then to our tick, and then arrows where it says arrow size. We can try 6 inches. And then we have a couple other things. This is what I mean. We sort of have to play around with this and see what that's going to happen. Extend beyond dim lines. These are extensions. These are the lines that go up. I'm actually going to make the tick. Let's make the tick 1 foot so it matches so it looks nice and clean. And then our extension beyond can be 1 foot. So you see how you get that line going up? So you got to go back to the lines tab. The extension. The arrow, you do this. The lines, you do here. You guys have a slightly... And then we have extend beyond ticks. If we did that as a foot, that extends beyond here. So we're basically making up our own little annotation, right? A little dimension string. Now, if we go back to our text height, we can see it's set to, this will not do anything as far as I know. This is where we control it. Don't ask me why it has 2 positions for this, but as far as I know, this will not change anything. We'll see. We'll double check. The other thing is offset from dim line. That's how much it's offsetting. This number is like how much we want it offset. So let's try. If we do 6 inches, that's obviously going to be offset half of 1 foot. But if we increase this to like 1 foot, it's going to offset it. And then we have all our text running horizontal or aligned. I'll leave that up to you. I like aligned actually. And then we have text placement. Right now it's on centered, so we can do above. And then the ones that are horizontal, um, add extension line 1, add extension line 2. We can't see right now because of this guy, but just do above for now. Leave this alone. Just do above. And then you can see the offset. Maybe influence this. So it's less offset from that. So we're pulling the text closer. Don't worry, leave fit the way it is for default. And that's pretty much it. Now we have to sort of test it, right? Now if we know something is 1 foot tall and we're doing it at 1/4 of an inch, how big is the text going to be? It's not a trick question. 1/4 of an inch, right? So this is where you got to start thinking. So if we're doing 1/8 inch, how big is the text going to be? 1/8 inch, right? So let's see if that's the case. So this is why we pick like a foot, right? So we're going to hit OK, and now we have our new dimension. We're going to set that current. Arc 170, set current. And then close it. So if I start dimensioning now, it'll start doing our new dimension string. Now, before I start dimensioning, you have to make sure I always make a layer. Okay? So I have like an A-dims layer. That's representing all the dimensions. Okay? And then yellow, you don't want to use red. I usually typically use something like yellow. That works well. A light, but not that light. And then we can go to dimension. Okay? So let's start looking at dimension. So from here we have a bunch of options. We have quick dimension. What you guys are going to be using is going to be aligned. And then you might start giving a radius or a diameter if you have any circle geometry. And you might give some angled if there's not something that's 90 degrees. Okay, but typically you're just going to be working with aligned. Aligned's critical because based on if I pick that and then I say endpoint, it's going to make my dimension align based on the angle that I'm at. Okay. So that way if I'm doing dimension align, okay, and you can see it's doing something funny. It's not centering it in this location. We'll fix that. But you can see how it's aligning the text, right? If we use linear will do only linear even if you're on an angle. So it won't, where aligned will actually draw at that angle. Does that make sense, the difference between the two? Now you can see our font's pretty big, right? I can pretty much tell. I know this is 2 feet. So that's 1 foot. Although it doesn't look like that's the same distance. That is 1 foot. Okay. So if I were to do this at 1/4 inch scale, this would be a 1/4 inch tall. Now I'm probably not doing this so at 1/4 inch, right? So you might do these dimensions and need to change them. We can change these. So what we can do is if we go to dimension, style, I can come here and go to modify. I select what I was using, go to modify. And then from here we can change, here, go to standard text height. We're going to change this to say 6 inches. And close this. So now it got smaller. Our tick might be too big, so we'll change that also to 6 inches. Not 6 feet, but 6 inches. Let's see why our text is off in La La Land. Maybe, well, let's put that at 0. Sorry, this horizontal needs to be centered. So above, horizontal needs to be centered. I might have actually changed that. So let's use an offset of 3 inches, so it's 3 inches off. And then our extensions, we did 1 foot, we can do 6. Offset dim is 3 inches. So this is the offset from the line to the text. So we want to be above and we want to be centered. And then if we hit OK and then hit close, it should automatically update. Okay? So we can keep on tweaking this until we have something that looks correct. But then we also want to check it in our layout. So within our layout, depending on what scale we're using, so this layout really isn't set up. So that's that 1/4 inch on 8.5 by 11. So let's look at what's happening. Yeah, so that's actually getting scaled. I have this actually adjusting. But we can see that something we'll have to test with the LT scale, especially once we get to layout. So we also have, although we have LT scale, we also have a dim scaling that we can adjust the scale factor once we get into paper space. For right now, don't worry about that. Get this size correctly within model space, and then we'll translate that when it comes time to lay it out on 11 by 17. But get your dimension and style working properly with the correct, within your settings here, okay? And then view it in model space, okay? And this works also then with angles. So if we want to do an angle, right, we can go to dimension, angle, pick 2 lines. If I can get 2 lines, sorry. Dimension, angled. It's not working. Doesn't matter, I want to do an angle. I don't know why it's not letting me pick these. These are dimension strings. Hello. Dimension, angular. Let's pick. See, I'm getting tired too. So we can see what's happening here. This is being rounded off, so we have to take care. So we need to go to Style again and Modify. And then under our units, bear with me. Under angular dimensions, under primary units, precision, if we need to add decimal points. So we have decimal degrees, right? Hit OK and close, so that way we get 3 decimal places for our angles. Okay. The only time you probably want to use angles if you have something that's not normal geometry. If everything's at 90 degrees, pretty much, you're fine. But I know some of you guys have angled projects. Or if you want to throw one 90-degree one in there to verify that, yes, this is supposed to be 90 degrees. Sometimes it could help. So this is dimensions. It's the beginning of annotations. You can see there's other things like if we go to a leader, so we can create, say we wanted to point something out. We can create a leader that points to an actual piece that we can actually put text behind, right? The other thing is too, sometimes if they don't update, that means that these are on different layers. So I can pick this and go to dimension and go to update and pick that, and it'll update it to the new style. So if you've drawn something with a different style, you have to go back and go to dimension, update, and then pick the dimensions, or you just pick everything and hit enter. You don't update everything. I don't know what happened to that. Something weird happened there. So update is a way to update the dimensions. Okay. So I think this is pretty straightforward. Get it, tool around till you're happy with, the way it's looking on the screen. And you want it balanced, right? You don't want huge fonts. You want it to be legible. I mean, this is pushing it with the amount of information that's here, but yeah, it's when we're going to get into paper space, but we're going to change. We're going to look at dimension scale. So next week when we print, we'll adjust that. Okay? Get this done. Get the dimensioning done first in model space. Questions? No questions?